Welcome to Sales Velocity TV, where we pull back the curtain on how the top businesses in the world sell more with less resistance. Bringing over 50 plus years of combined sales experience and over 100 million in revenue generated, please welcome the hosts of Sales Velocity TV and two incredibly entertaining gentlemen, Andrew Cass and Aaron Parkinson.
Aaron, how do you feel about being one of two very entertaining gentlemen? Have you given that some thought now? 150 some odd episodes into the game here, that that lady is spot on. Two very incredibly entertaining gentlemen. I mean, come on.
I'm kind of disappointed she doesn't say handsome as well. I got to be honest.
Those days are over for us. We used to be handsome. Now we're too old. I just turned 50. You're like 46 or 47 or something like that. I know I got you by a few years, but I think the handsome stuff has left the building.
How disappointing.
Hey, it's just the cycle of life, right? I mean, at some point those days are over, but hey, I remember
I'm going to hold on. I'm going to hold on to it. So as everybody, if you're a loyal listener, a loyal watcher, you know that coming up in this quarter, we're going to be doing a rebrand to be just give ourselves the ability to talk about more topics that really we're interested in. We think our general listeners are wanting to hear more about. And so today's show is not the Sales Velocity Show. We're just going to rebrand the entire show to the RFK Show. How about that, Andrew?
The RFK 2024 Ride to the White House, Let's Go Independent road show for the next 14 months, right? We're gonna start a super PAC and ride RFK to the White House because the guys just, the answer to that, we were joking before the show. Aaron and I usually get into these crazy rants before the show takes off. We were like, man, not to veer off on politics since this is about scaling up versus staying small today, but we were talking about, man, if America's ever been ready for a third-party revolution groundswell of somebody who just couldn't be more qualified and couldn't be a better healer, that's the guy. And we were like, should we just make him the sponsor of the show? And then each and every episode of the new show is brought to you by the RFK, the Kennedy 2024 campaign, right? Classic.
But I love the guys. I love the guy's books. I love the podcasts he's doing. I love how non-divisive he is. Yep. I said to you, I honestly feel like if he chose a side, he'd have a 10 times better chance of winning just because of how ingrained Americans are in this two-team political system, which I think is insane.
I've always hated the fact that you had to be pigeonholed into two parties, but it is the way it is. And listen, one of the things people don't understand at the end of the day, as crazy as this may sound, is America would function better if both parties were healthy, right? If the Democrat Party was a healthy, productive party, if the Republican Party was a healthy, productive party, that would be good for America. But it's also good for America to have an independent revolution, which I think is about to happen in America. This is a show about independence and resilience and taking control of your business and entrepreneurship and sales. And I think you're going to find that much of what we're going to do in the future will be all about sovereignty and resilience and personal autonomy, and a lot of it will stem back to entrepreneurship. And you have to have the economic and the political conversations and the health conversations when that happens. So we're excited to pivot to a show of that topic. But you're absolutely right about him. And I gave you a stat in the beginning, which is interesting as well. Two things that make a perfect storm in my view.
Tell the stats.
Number one.
Tell the stats, people.
I'm prepared today. Number one, before we get into the content, by the way, and this is important because this is this kind of stuff we tend to come back to because it definitely affects your personal life and your business life more than you know. Here's stat number one. Stat number one is 75% of Americans at this time do not want to see a old man Biden-Trump rematch. Trump is going to be 80. Biden can't even speak. It's pathetic to watch. No disrespect, but he has legitimate dementia and he's not fit to lead. Trump is a chaotic guy. He's not fit to lead. I didn't vote for either of them in the last election. But at this time, 75% of America does not want that rematch. So that's point number one. Point number two is, for the first time ever, the American public embraces a third-party independent candidate at the highest percentage in history. Now, back when Ross Perot pulled it off, he had a very high favorability rating. I want to say that was in the 80s, Aaron. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, I never got into politics until COVID hit, and I realized it was
late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I never got into politics until the last couple of years, until COVID hit, and I realized it was a great big political show, and I needed to learn more. So here I am, right? Here we are. So I don't know what that percentage is, but it's not a little bit higher than over the last 10 or 20 years. It's record numbers of people who are saying, you know what, I would embrace the right third-party independent candidate. There have been fly-by-night people before. RFK could not be further from a fly-by-night Kennedy lawyer, environmental lawyer, one of the most successful in American history, a Kennedy. Nobody has seen more. Nobody has done more. Nobody knows more. Nobody is as connected and nobody's more fit, minus all the labels. Minus all the labels that they have to use, by the way, to deflect from, their tyranny. But that's a different story. So you get a perfect storm. You've got more people than ever don't want the rematch, and more people than ever are saying a third-party candidate is exactly what is needed right now as a revolution to heal the divide and fix America. And if you hear Kennedy speak, he is deliberately not divisive, and he is very specific with solutions. That is a leader. That is an intelligent man. And that is somebody that you can trust. You very rarely see politicians pull off two. Sometimes one. They might not be divisive, fine, but they're not clear on their plans. Or they might have a really clear plan, but they're divisive. Rarely will you find somebody who's not divisive by design and who is very clear with solutions and strategies. That is a 1-2 punch that is rarely seen. I think he's the only one. I mean, I can look at some other people I like on both. Well, I shouldn't say both sides. There isn't both sides anymore. There's only conservatives and independents. The Democrat Party left the building and they're on some other planet at this point. So I can't even go over there right now. But you're not going to find that 1-2 punch like you will with Kennedy.
The thing that I actually like about it is I'm a very basic guy. You and I both know a lot of the stuff that I do is math driven, right? I'm the CEO of a large advertising agency. It's very math driven. And when I look at politicians, and they very rarely can concisely outline their plan.
That's my point.
To specific issues.
There you go.
Like, what is your plan in the Ukraine? This is a serious problem. Putin could go mental tomorrow and launch a missile. Like, this is a problem. What's your plan for this?
Exactly.
What's your plan for inflation? What's your plan for the education system eroding underneath our feet, where you've got teachers just overwhelmed with too many students, with behavioral issues? What is your plan for the rampant crossing of the border? That's not like, what's your plan? And it's amazing how many politicians get voted in without a plan, right? And if you actually think back to like one of the big reasons why Trump got put in is he's like, build the wall. Not an elaborate or eloquent explanation of how to solve the problem, but at least it was a plan.
He's a bull. He's a different strategy.
And the thing is, I don't even have to like your plans. I just want to know that you have a plan. Okay?
Right. But you're right about that. And I would say the third piece of the puzzle here is likability, right? So the likability factor for him, I listen to a lot of his work. I read all of his books. I've donated to his nonprofit Children's Health Defense since it launched in 2018 or 19 or whatever. So I feel like I'm very well read. And I'm very well, as you know, well studied on all things RFK, and I've studied the Kennedy lineage as well. I'm actually reading the new book that was just released. It's called The Real RFK, and it goes all the way back to his childhood. I'm really learning a lot about him as a kid, as a person, how he was, his role in the family, et cetera. Different story, right? But the point I'm trying to make is you could argue the third one is likability. So if you have a clear plan, if you are non-divisive in the way you communicate, and you're likable, you now have the trifecta. Before I give you the perfect storm, I'll give you the trifecta with likability. He checks those three boxes. I don't know of anyone that else that does. So, for example, Ron DeSantis, who I love, who's done an amazing job in Florida, and he's running on his record. So, got a great plan. He's got a phenomenal record. He is divisive at times, and I think
he's not likable. That's the problem.
They say that, right? They say like he's not. They say he's very dry. So he's
dry.
So you're right. The analysts right now say he's got a likability problem. I personally like him. I like the directness. I like the get to the point. But personality wise, he sometimes he'll take on like a Trump effect where maybe he can get too divisive. But there's also a time when you need to throw stones as well. And especially today with some of the really, really, really radical woke ideology being inflicted and promoted and really just plastered on people, you got to fight that, and he does, and I love that, and RFK does as well.
And I'm okay with that. I just sort of look at it more like it's less about the specific things, and it's just more about like the scorecard, right? Trump is not a likable human being.
No,
that's
no. There are some that like him, but he's not. Generally, his demeanor isn't. He doesn't check the likability box all that much.
Right. There's lots of things that he did that I really like.
Well, most people,
but he's not a likable human being.
Right. So that box gets unchecked.
Right. That box gets unchecked. DeSantis is a more likable human being, but he's not a relatable human being.
Yes. He's much more likable.
Gavin Newsom, who would be potentially the one on the left, is insane.
He is. You're a Canada guy. So Trudeau's off the charts right now. So Trudeau is actually, Aaron, do you know Trudeau's trying to eliminate podcasts? So the podcasts are now driving candidates like Vivek Ramaswamy and RFK. I knew they were going to come for the podcast. I knew it, man. And I saw the news last week. I knew they were going to come for guys like Rogan and guys like Patrick Bet-David, who we love, who are having really good quality, professional, adult, mature, freedom-based conversations. And they're coming for the podcast. At least Trudeau is. Trudeau's a dictator.
This is phase one. What he's forcing everybody to do is register their podcast. So that's phase one.
That's phase one. Don't let that registration fool you. It's for the good of the people. This is so that, right.
Right. So first off, we want to know where everybody is and what they're saying, and then we'll start to selectively choose who gets to say what and this and that. And it's all, we've seen this so many times before.
Yeah,
right?
but I've been concerned about podcast media for a while now. I study totalitarian very closely. While everybody's watching 18 hours a week of Netflix, I'm reading about history, totalitarianism, Marxism, communism, all things I don't want to spend time on, but I'm seeing so many remnants of them, and I feel I need to learn more. And that is a chip. That is as you say, a chipping away at free speech. That's a censorship play. I don't trust this administration as far as I can throw them. And Newsom, by the way, is cut from the same cloth as Trudeau. Nobody has inflicted more pain on the parent-child relationship than the California governor. My team put together a list of 6 things and bills they've passed. It's straight tyranny. And Biden administration is, straight out of China's playbook as of late. I mean, they're dealing with court cases right now from coercion and Zuckerberg had to come forward and say that the White House bullied us to take down information from conservatives and to take down information on vaccine safety. That's a very big deal.
It's a very big deal.
Very big deal. People don't really understand what I just said. Like, they're like, yeah, right. No, that happened in America and it's happening. They're trying to disconnect the White House from social media companies. Now, you know why they're going after Musk right now, right? Because when Musk bought Twitter, Musk saw everything from under the hood.
Yep.
So now Musk is probably either going to be a racist, a rapist, a sexual harasser. You'll see one of these things surface to distract from what he knows. This is the playbook now.
It'll be destabilize his character.
They're coming for him. I've already seen. I watch it closely again. I've already seen too little where there's smoke, there's fires. I saw a big racist case against Tesla about a month ago. Perfect timing. And I saw something about sexual harassment. I feel like in the workplace, maybe with Twitter, or I don't know if it was Twitter or Tesla. So that's the DOJ coming. They come for everybody who.
That's kindling.
That's kindling coming because we've got to distract and go after opponents. It is really becoming banana republic. It's becoming a totalitarianism playbook. And man, DeSantis does the same thing, but Kennedy like no other because he checks all 3 boxes. Remember, all 3 boxes would be likability, clear plan, right? Likability, clear plan, non-divisive. So when he communicates what we're talking about, it's like, wow, I generally like this guy. And I really could see this guy leading. This is what people come away with. Now, I've seen some of the most skeptical interviews of all. I could add a 4th here, Aaron. The 4th is poise. Never gets fired up when he's attacked, and he's attacked like no other. So I could add a 4th, which is nice.
Poise. That shows intelligence.
He puts himself right in the line of fire with the really the clueless people who call him like an anti-vaxxer. Meanwhile, him and his family have taken every vaccine in the book except the COVID-19 vaccine, which isn't a vaccine. But they call him an anti-vaxxer. And he'll actually say, bring me on your show. And I will talk to you about how, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'll talk to you about how I want full transparency and I want better science. That today is considered conspiracy theory, by the way, wanting better science. But how many guys will go into the fire and say, interview me and ask me these questions? And let's have an open debate. And at the end, let's shake hands and just agree or disagree. Who's having those conversations, man? That's a real man conversation, is what that is.
Well, and the reality is that most people aren't capable of doing that, so they shy away from it. Right?
I actually think most people are not capable of doing that.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Oh, you said not, okay.
You couldn't put, for example, a Trump in a room and have that conversation because he would just blow up, right? So that's a nice thing with RFK.
He would. But you know what's interesting, Aaron, is CNN, because CNN's dying on a vine, so now they're like, we got to do something. So they bring Trump on a town hall. I didn't see it. I meant to watch it. Trump was on a town hall on CNN like 6 months ago for 90 minutes. I was like, CNN did that? I mean, that's how surprising. It should be. You should have opposing views on all your shows, and you should then you shouldn't take a stance if you're a real show and if you're a real journalist. You shouldn't be taking a stance. You should be asking questions the right way, and you should be letting the public determine for themselves who they want and who they like. You shouldn't be putting in people's head who to like.
Right.
The Biden administration right now is now on a different path of now labeling half the population as extremists because they like the other candidate, Trump. So say what you want about Trump. I don't like him. You don't like him. He had some decent policies. I didn't vote for him. But just because somebody does support him, that is a fellow American. That doesn't make you an extremist because you like the other party. That is the highest level of insanity and the greatest insult to the intelligence of the American people than I've ever seen in my 50 years on this planet. And that's coming straight from the White House. But again, because they have to, they don't have a choice. If they don't attack and divide and conquer and make everybody a racist or an extremist, they don't have a party. Watch
the beauty of how I'm going to tie in our show title today.
I was about to just pivot and stay on this topic and then do the show title we had for today next week. I mean, I
can absolutely go that way as well. It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
Let's determine that in a minute. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, here's how I was going to tie it together.
Okay.
When you're growing
it was supposed to be a 2-minute intro.
Right. When you're growing a business,
yep,
we are all marketed to, and we create this belief structure.
Yep.
That if we're not growing, we're dying. If we're not growing, we're failing. If we're a $1 million company this year, we need to be a $2 million next year. If we're going to have $2 million, we need to be a $4 million, a 5, 7, 8, 12, 100, 200, whatever. We're told if we don't strive for these things, we're not winners. And that's what we were going to talk about today, is that there are pros and cons of staying small and scaling up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really defined. What you should do is really more defined by what you want and who you are than the dogma that's often preached to us that we just accept at face value.
Mm-hmm.
RFK is a great example of this. RFK is a Kennedy. He comes from wealth. He's a lawyer. He comes from wealth. He's a best-selling author. He comes from wealth. He's well-respected and really well-loved because he's a Kennedy, and Americans have an affinity for the Kennedy name, and they feel sorry for him because his dad was killed and his brother was killed, and all these things. RFK doesn't need to do anything. He's making a choice to live a very happy, comfortable existence and put himself right in the line of fire for the sake of becoming something much larger than he already is. And there's obviously reasons that he has for that. And they must be very powerful reasons, because why you would want to put yourself in the line of fire, which inevitably comes for anybody running at that level of office, has to be very, very powerful. Are there pros to it? I'm sure for whatever reasons he's wanting to do this, he's figured out what the pros are in his mind. But there's also going to be a ton of negatives, which we're already starting to see. You start seeing people making stuff up and blasting him and questioning his character, and he's going to have to raise a bunch of money to do this, probably put some of his own in. Like, there's a lot of negatives. His why is clearly big enough to justify destabling an amazing life by every measurable variable to go and do this.
Really,
when you're
well
running
said,
a business, you have to ask yourselves the same thing. You know, you look at your businesses, I look at my businesses. We have great lives. We've got great lives. We've got great families. We've got great kids. We've got great staff members. When you start to push the envelope on growth, good things happen and bad things inevitably happen. It's not all roses, and you have to really decide, why am I doing this? Why is the upside big enough that I'm willing to be okay with the destabilization to a degree that is inevitably going to happen from pushing into growth? How'd you like how I tied that together?
I love it. And here's what we're going to do, because you did as always, a fantastic job That's why you're the co-host, man. I feel like I've chosen wisely. A very great job, as always, of articulating that movement or that why for him. So we're going to pivot the title of the show into the Kennedy leadership style, which is really what we're talking about. It's a really great leadership conversation is what we're going to have. And then the next show, which was supposed to be this show, is staying small versus scaling up. So we'll spend the next few minutes staying with the example of RFK. And again, at the time of this recording, he's about to flip independent. That's a very, 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 very unusual thing to have happen from a Kennedy, no less. So Kennedy is not leaving the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left Kennedy. Clear as day. They've moved from leftism to despotism. I mean, it's just insane. And I think a lot of people are seeing it at this point. So it's going to be a very big shaking of the trees, if you will, when a Kennedy is an independent. But he's tried everything he can, legally, diplomatically, politically, to say, hey, listen, I'm a real candidate. Stop censoring everybody that doesn't see things your way. Stop fighting and changing rules and laws to not have debates because you want to hide Joe Biden in the basement. None of that serves the American people. He's doing everything he can, Aaron, to stay a Democrat. And frankly, I'd rather see him stay a Democrat and fix the damn party because, like I said in the beginning, the best thing that can happen in America is you have two healthy, productive, well-running Democrat and Republican parties who see eye to eye at times, who fight diplomatically at times, but at the end of the day, they're for the American people. That's not the case anymore. This is a giant globalist cabal, DNC corporate elite playbook, and he's doing everything he can to unwind it. But like we said in the beginning, the American people aren't smart enough to see it. That's what concerns me more than anything.
Things on that. One, I would like to see him stay with the party as well because I don't know if the average American is smart enough to vote for an independent.
That's true.
And so that eliminates his chance to actually make it in because he's not in one party or the other. And that concerns me.
Me too.
The second thing I want to say is I want to dovetail off of what I was just saying because you've done so much research on RFK like you usually do. I
study the guy like he's, I mean, I don't know why I'm so drawn to it because I've never seen a more formidable, qualified, better individual to get us out of the mess that we're in.
So that's where my question is going to stem from. I'm curious to know from you, somebody who spent a lot of time reading, watching, donating, why do you think he upsets the apple cart of a perfect life to put himself in this line of fire? What do you think his why really is? And it might be very basic and simple, but I'm curious.
It is very basic and simple. And he actually said the words when he decided to get into the race, and he took his speech in April of 2023, and he said, I can no longer watch my country decline. I have to do this now or never. Exact words. It's that simple. And frankly, if you don't see that in America today in the middle of 2023, you're lost in space. There isn't even a cloud 9 for you anymore. You're on like cloud 19. Like the decline, the degeneratism from the borders to the lawlessness in cities to funding wars to the dismantling of energy independence to turning everything into an emergency to the medical tyranny surrounding COVID-19. It is on another level. And he was like, that's it. I have got to get my hat in the ring. I've been pushed to do this. I have the pedigree to do this. I'm a 40-year environmental attorney. I have unwound corporate. I have unwound corruption at the corporate level, mainly when it comes to protecting the environment in chemical companies, in big ag, in big food, in big pharma. Nobody has made more ground. Nobody has taken them for more billions in fines for what they've done to the environment and what they've done to the public health community than RFK can. Nobody can say that. Nobody has that pedigree.
So do you think he's doing this because he's the ultimate patriot? Or do you think he's doing it because his family has had such a unique history of trying to rectify these issues, and he's got this chip on his shoulder of, you killed my dad, you killed my brother, I'm seeing this get worse and worse and worse. I'm coming to fight because I took care of what I need in my life. He's taking care of the money, he's taking care of the family, he's taking care of the reputation, he's taking care of the education. He's like, I'm coming to fight. I'm coming to fight the establishment that went at my family and is destroying the country. And maybe that's the same thing. I don't know.
It is a great question, and it's absolutely both. He is the ultimate American patriot, and he's absolutely, now I'm going way back on his childhood, and I'm seeing now the damage that he was really close to John F. Kennedy. He called him Uncle Jack, and he spent a lot of time in the White House as a young boy, 8, 9 years old. You don't really remember much at that point. And that was very tough on the family, the JFK thing. But when the Robert Kennedy Sr. thing happened, that's when a lot of them were like, now we're mad. Okay? That was unfortunate, JFK. And, of course, it was demoralizing for everybody. But when 2 years or 3 years later, RFK Sr. got clipped, and by the way, got clipped when it was clear that he was taking California. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay? And now RFK Jr., Bobby Jr. now, who we're talking about, is now like 14. And his life didn't go well for a lot of years, Aaron. Got into a lot of drugs and alcohol and didn't have a path for a lot of years until he got into his 20s, and then eventually settled down and went to school and finished his law degree and met some good mentors along the way. But there's two things. He first and foremost wanted to revive the traditional Kennedy Democrat Liberal Party. That party is so far removed from reality, it's scary. And he wanted to get in there and fix it. Good. Like I said, it would be better if he did, but it's too far gone, and he's now going to go independent. So it's, yes, a chip on the shoulder. The Bobby Kennedy thing, his dad has stayed with him, and he is absolutely positively a true patriot who says, I'm not going to watch this decline and this destruction of America take place any longer. And I've never seen damage like that. I mean, we're 2.5 years in, almost, is it 3 years in? Almost 3 years in. Build back better. You couldn't destroy things faster. Build back better. This is an absolute horror show. And he's, like a lot of people, getting in the ring going, I've got to do something. Vivek Ramaswamy, young guy, controversial guy, same thing. Why 38 years old are you getting in the ring? I can't watch my country be destroyed any longer. I have 2 little boys. I came here. I immigrated from India. I love this country. I've made billions as an entrepreneur. I could have easily waited till I'm 50 like most guys do. I don't think I have till I'm 50, he said. We're done in a year or two. There you go. Different side of the ball, 38 versus 69, Republican versus Democrat. What are the reasons for doing it now? What's the motivation? The motivation is the window is small.
And see, I think that when people say that kind of stuff, you can go, in your mind, you can go, it's talking heads. It's the same old I'm passionate nonsense.
Yeah,
it's all the rhetoric that
you could always let yourself off the hook and do that. Yes,
you can. But I think when you look at somebody like a Kennedy, for example, who would want that life? Like, I can't remember who they asked. They said, would you ever want to be the president of the United States? And they were like, why? Like, have you ever seen how gray they are within 4 years?
It's like they age 10 years in 4, right? When you look at them?
Like the money sucks. Obviously, you come out of it with best-selling author and speaking tours and, influence and relation. Of course, all of those things come out with it. But the job sucks, right? It's a terrible job. So I actually really not such endorse, but respect or trust people more when they're already an established, proven,
it says a lot,
educated business person, because there's no real benefit.
It's true. It says a lot. I mean, Trump, love him or hate him, it's like, why would you do that? But the fact that you wanted to at the time told me something that, hey, maybe you want to really, I mean, I think a lot more people voted for Trump in his first run. He was a really, he was a lot more accepted going in as the businessman and the celebrity than he was coming out, obviously. So his going into the next term, it's kind of an ugly scene. He shouldn't be a candidate right now. But going in, I always say about Trump, he was the right idea but the wrong guy.
Agreed.
Right? So yes, but you have a little bit of respect at the time for him saying, I'm going to put a multi-billion-dollar company on hold to go run the country. I mean, this is like a volatile, like you said, position to be in. But it says a lot about the candidates, like Vivek Ramaswamy says a lot about a 38-year-old guy who doesn't need to do this. DeSantis says a lot. Stay in Florida. You're doing an amazing job. Why get out of that? Kennedy got a great life. So yes, for people who are going into the ring, you hope it's for the right reasons, but it definitely says a lot about why are they leaving the comfortable, wealthy, stress-free life to do it. It's a good point, and it should say a lot, and it should be a checkbox for many.
Well, and I think you missed one of the key points, and maybe you don't mean key points as far as
checkboxes,
checkboxes of should you elect them, but I would say maybe this is also a checkbox on the likelihood of getting elected. And one of the big ones that people often overlook is name recognition.
For sure,
right? Trump had
massive, he's nothing if he wasn't The Apprentice.
Oh, massive name.
I mean, in the branding of Trump, I mean,
best-selling authors, he's a best-selling author. He had The Apprentice. Trump's name has been associated with uber wealth and business for 2 decades.
Yeah.
You hear songs and they're talking about, I'm going to be rich like Trump one day. Like he had that association.
Sure.
Right. Vaswani doesn't have any mainstream name recognition. Neither does DeSantis. He needs to
make a name, and DeSantis has a name in Florida for the most part.
But they have to make a name where Kennedy has the name. It's probably the name.
It's true,
right? Yeah. Like maybe Reagan. Like if there was a Reagan, maybe that would be equitable.
Reagan didn't even have the notoriety that a Kennedy does. I mean, Reagan was just a guy out of Hollywood who just
But again, he was an actor, and he had recognition.
He was an actor, yeah.
Right, and
he had attention.
It's the same with Schwarzenegger in California, right? Name recognition.
Right.
So this is again, I don't believe he's going to get elected because
so you think there's no chance as an independent this can happen, right?
There's never no chance because records always get broken.
What's that phrase I said in the beginning? Aaron, I feel like this time could be different. You know what somebody says that you're like, oh geez, everyone's all right? But because of the stats I gave in the beginning, I would be more optimistic now than ever. And I think to your point, Aaron, because of the name recognition, and if you really dig in and do the research, you realize that Bobby Kennedy Jr. right now is running on the exact same platform that JFK ran on and that Bobby Sr. ran on. They were the most loved politicians in American history. So if you don't know history and you don't really know a damn thing if you think somehow he's on a different path, he's attacking the same subjects and he's standing for the same values his father and his uncle did. He should be embraced by all, but he's not because of propaganda and because of just the sheer tyranny that we're seeing on the current party.
For the people who are like, I don't even know who this guy is, and you guys are going off on him. Let's talk about a topic. So this is a very dangerous Pandora's box because I know that you could go freaking nuclear just by me opening.
Are you trying to set me off?
But I want to say what I want to say first because I'm not nearly as nuclear as you are on this topic.
Okay, let me take a deep breath.
So I watched a great interview with him where he said, you know what? Big Pharma is manipulating the government way too much. And he basically said, if you look at the rest of the world, it's illegal to run pharmaceutical ads on television. And it used to be illegal here. And somehow somebody got swayed and money got transferred and blah, 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 blah. And I don't remember how many years ago it was.
It was in the 80s and it was a Freedom of Information Act. And unfortunately, it was under Reagan.
Okay. So all of a sudden, Pandora's box got opened, and you will know this number better than me, but I'm just going to throw it out. I think it's something like 65% now of commercial revenue is coming from Big Pharma. So of all the things that are on television right now, and all the companies that get advertised on television with their commercials, 65% of it is being bought by Big Pharma. And
it's actually 75%, but you're
is it 75? Okay.
Yeah, it's 3/4 of them. Yes.
Think about how insane that number is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And what he's basically saying is that needs to come back. This needs to go back to doctor-patient relationship. We need to slow down science. We need to stop.
Forget slow down science. They need to actually do science.
we need to remove the people's ability to lobby the government on Big Pharma. Like we need to take Big Pharma and put it back in the box it was supposed to be, which is a rarely used, rarely prescribed, heavily vetted, long time tested. Hey, measles, chickenpox, tetanus, like those things are all great things. These things are not rushed to market and advertised on television, right? Like
Aaron,
the stuff now with the 72 side effects that now we've all become immune to, like, hey, there's this great pill and it can make your eyesight better, but don't worry, you might have liver disease and you might have a heart attack, and in some cases you might die.
Control.
And it's the same thing in every commercial. And now
when do I get to go nuclear?
It's like
is it now or is it in 2 minutes?
Stop this. He wants to stop this strikes.
First executive order, his words, not mine. We are going to ban pharmaceutical advertising to the general public. We're the only country in the world that allows it, aside of New Zealand, and New Zealand has much better measures. So there's only 2 countries that even allow it. That's gone. That's gone day one. So he's obviously. So why is he hated? Why all the labels? Well, geez, let's figure it out. The mainstream media is essentially driven by the pharmaceutical industry. And here's a guy coming in and saying, you're not going to advertise to the public anymore because we want to bring back the integrity of medicine. Like you said, Aaron, it's doctor-patient confidentiality. If I need medicine, I'm going to go to my doctor, and depending on my medical situation and my health situation, will determine that for me. CNN won't determine it for me. The White House won't determine it for me. But I got one better. Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, also won't be determining for me if I need to take a COVID-19 vaccine, because just this week, have you seen the commercial?
Mr. Pfizer?
Mr. Pfizer took the payoff from Pfizer. Now, here's what's ironic. He's now in partnership with Pfizer to tell you that you need to maximize your time and do 2 shots in one. Get the flu shot and get the COVID shot together because 2's better than 1. That's going on as we speak. But here's what's interesting, Aaron. About a month ago, Travis Kelce started dating the biggest pop star in the world. Do you know who she is?
Yeah.
Who?
The Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. Yeah. So, and a month after all this attention comes to the NFL because he's dating Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce cuts a deal with Pfizer to now start promoting the COVID-19 Pfizer vaccine, which, by the way, could not be a worse form of medicine maybe ever introduced to the American public. All of that has been covered up. That's either the greatest coincidence in the world, Aaron, or I don't even know what to say. So now the NFL has all this attention, checkbox 1. And now all of a sudden, the guy who's getting all the attention because he's dating the pop star who's the biggest in the world, we're now going to do a multi-billion-dollar, to your point, Pfizer advertisement to the American public. I couldn't think of a bigger low for public health than a tight end from the Kansas City Chiefs giving you and me medical advice. To your point about I mean, we're at a low here. Like this is Saturday Night Live shit.
And hence why RFK is like, stop the circus.
So now looping back to RFK leadership, stop the circus. Let's call them a conspiracy theory.
Right. So here's the problem. And if you're, and this is why I said sometimes I'm concerned that the average American is not intelligent.
I'm super concerned, man.
Think through this process. So RFK says we're going to remove Big Pharma from TV commercials because it's ridiculous, and we're one of only 2 in the world.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous, right? So he says we're going to do this. So first off, the big pharma companies are going to take a massive drop in revenue because they no longer have the reach that they want.
There you go.
So one industry right there, problem. So they're going to fight them tooth and nail. They're going to say whatever they have to say about them. The other thing you might not have picked up on, important point, the number one weapon of the people who want to keep you in control is still television. If 75% of their advertising revenue goes out the door, it's the only thing propping that form of media up anymore. So all the people that own those television stations and own those networks, and really the government,
they're out of funding
them, right?
They're out of funding, Aaron. CNN is out of business without Pfizer. 300+ million last year alone came from Pharma. Done.
Right.
You will see propaganda flagship media companies done. Now what? When they're done, holy shit, that's going to be that's going to be a lot less propaganda floating around. Woo, that's not good.
Well, and we can't lose our propaganda tool. Right. So we've lost our business. We've lost our propaganda tool, and we've lost our revenue from jamming stuff down people's throats that they don't need.
Therefore,
we're going to have to say really mean things about.
Therefore, he is anti this, conspiracy this, crazy this, off the chain this. So it's just math. And it's obvious math what you just gave. You just gave the most obvious math of math. We're math guys. This is usually a show where we're talking about data and math and facts. You just gave 1 + 1 = 2 math on how pharma, advertising, conflicts of interest, lobbying works. You just gave it right there.
And I won't. The way I was going to say this, I'm not going to say this. I'm going
to
say
do it. I want you to say it.
I'm going to say it a different way.
No, do it. Do it the bad way.
He was. Look, I'll do it the bad way. I'm worried he's going to get clipped.
I'm not.
And here's the thing. He was asked about it. If you're going after these 2 massive institutions, in addition to all the other things that he has plans to
we're only on one little topic here.
We're on one little topic. He was asked, I think it was on Rogan's show. I can't remember. He was asked, are you worried that you could suffer the same fate as your family?
I want to worry about it. I want to talk to that.
He said, I recognize it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to think. He said, I've taken precautions, obviously. I realize it's a reality. but I'm going to move forward anyway. Again, going back to the staying small versus being big, you put yourself out there when you've got this amazing life. You also have a family tradition of being sniped.
Such respect.
It's crazy.
Right, Aaron?
Really, when you think about
such respect.
The stones on this guy.
Aaron, 2 incidents in the last month. Incident number 1 is guy ends up in his house, breaks in, upper floor. He's got security at the house. Guy breaks in, gets into the house. The alarms go off, security. But a guy got into his house. That was number 1. Number 2, at one of his speeches in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago, a guy somehow dressed up as a Secret Service, as like an FBI marshal. So he looked like,
really?
Have you heard about this?
No.
So he looked like everybody else on his team, had the tag and the badge and everything, armed, 2 guns. He has private security right now. They're excellent. They're one of the most respected private security firms in the country. So. They're phenomenal. Thank God he has them because, again, he's a Kennedy and he has money. Guy got in and he was actually he was there to put a hit on Kennedy. This is a true story. This happened in L.A. His security got to the guy. He got through like 2 levels of security and almost got to the stage. He was about to get clipped. And here's the most disgusting part of all of this. This is what really it keeps me up at night, and it makes me really, really. It's almost embarrassing for to be an American when I say this. When you're a candidate for the president and you meet a certain polling number, it's 15% actually, you automatically qualify for Secret Service protection. Okay. So RFK has now asked the Biden administration 4 separate times over the last year with, by the way, 2 hits that have taken place that I just told you about for Secret Service protection, and they've denied him. I just want to pause right there for a minute. In 55 years, because this only started 55 years ago, it actually started with Teddy Kennedy. Teddy Kennedy got Secret Service protection, something like 450 days out from the election. Trump granted Secret Service protection to Biden 200 or 300 days out from the election. Obama got Secret Service protection. Every formidable candidate who has met polling criteria gets Secret Service protection from the United States government. This is the first time in history, this is fact, that the Biden administration has denied Secret Service protection to one of their own, not only an opponent, but someone in their own party. And it's just, and they actually, of course, they go on TV and they lie about it and they say, oh, no, that's not true. It's only, we do this 120 days out. No, I posted a video on social media. I wanted to make this very clear. That's not true. There's no days out thing. Okay?
There's no time limit. There's no window.
No, that's not true, right? In fact, Gavin DeBecker, who owns the security firm that protects RFK, actually went viral with a video and said the White House is completely lying. Secret Service protection has been granted to each and every candidate who has qualified for it for 55 straight years, and it doesn't matter if it's 100 days out or 400 days out. And he gave 5 examples of former presidents, from Trump to Biden to Obama to Bush to Teddy Kennedy, all over the last 55 years, who all got Secret Service protection because we are all Americans. This isn't communist China. This isn't like your opponent. We attack, we create labels, we do indictments, and we don't grant protection. They didn't grant this guy, so now he's really pissed. So could you imagine, though, at the end of the day, denying Secret Service protection to another candidate and a Kennedy and someone in your own party? But here's the real hypocrisy of it all, Aaron. You know what Joe Biden said 10 years ago? Your dad, Robert Kennedy Sr., is the reason I'm in politics. Today, he has denied Secret Service protection to his son. I want that to marinate right now with the American public and our viewers. That is an absolute disgrace to all things.
Ouch.
Yeah. That and I want to leave it there, and I want that to marinate because in unpacking and dissecting these really rare leadership characteristics that we talked about in the beginning, checking all the boxes, non-divisive, likable, clear policies, to be denied Secret Service protection as a human being and as an American absolutely infuriates me.
It seems very sketchy.
Does it rank right up there with 90 Trump indictments out of the blue when he decided he was running for president, but no indictments for the first 2 years he was out of office? So you're seeing a pattern here?
I wouldn't want to be so obvious about it.
That's
where my brain goes. It's like, hold on a second. You've got a family.
Because you have a brain. And what's happening right now is they really understand how brainless most of the population is, to your point earlier. Your brain and my brain immediately go, how could you make that so obvious? Just give the guy protection to just not check that tyranny box of how disgraceful you are, and just give the guy, I mean, I wouldn't even want Secret Service protection from this White House. It's actually a blessing in disguise, and I think he admits that now. But the fact that you said no on 4 occasions makes you lower than you're the lowest form of human life that maybe has ever lived in the White House. It's crazy, insane.
But it's so crazy that's my point. Is it looks sketchy? It makes it look like Aaron, he's being set up to be clipped.
I've always said the mafia always operates in plain sight. They are notorious for it because you almost can't even believe it when you see it. So they actually, it's psychological warfare. They operate in plain sight because it's like, that couldn't happen. How could that happen in plain sight? Nah, right?
It must not be real.
It must not be. So it's almost like at the point now where, okay, so we've got the mafia in the White House and they're just basically saying things aren't happening that are happening, which is gaslighting. So there's like a gaslighting / mafia playbook here that is just on another level. And man, it's just so disappointing to watch because for all the reasons we started the show, when you got a guy who's got the likability and has the plan and is not divisive and has the big name, to your point there, it should be just a blowout. And the fact that it isn't just goes to show you the level of propaganda and tyranny that's driving the smear campaign against him. And I just beg the public to be smarter than this and see through this and understand that you've got a guy who can really come in here and fix things and heal. The people who are trying to demoralize him are the people who are destroying things.
I think we should wrap it there.
I think we should. So this was a peek inside the unusual and rare Kennedy leadership style as he's about to announce going independent. And maybe for the first time in American history, we have a potential revolution brewing where there could be an independent candidate that couldn't be more for the people than this guy is. And, we'll loop back to business on the next show. And I think we came into the show thinking we were going to do staying small versus scaling up. And we got into I guess that's one of the cool things about having your own show is you can just change the topic 5 minutes in.
Yeah, we'll just change the title.
Exactly. So by the time you're watching this, you'll know that we unpacked a very rare, unusual, but important leadership portfolio that Kennedy has that very few do, and that you may not see it again in politics. Again, I've not seen anybody check all those boxes. And it's impressive to see, and you've got to be just really, really, really careful with where you get your information from. But I think you need to be most deliberate with getting information from as many available sources as possible so that you can make your own decision and not be told what to think.
Agreed.
Okay, my man. Good one here. Leadership is an important topic we'll be covering on the new show, the new branded show, as we get closer to it. I'm Andrew. That's Aaron. Hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Sales Velocity TV is powered by Pipeline Pro, the ultimate all-in-one sales pipeline management and marketing automation platform that makes all others obsolete. And we can prove it. Take a tour at gopipelinePro.com. See you on the next episode.